We are in Parashat Naso. We still have the gap between us and the diaspora. The diaspora is in Bamidbar. We're in Parashat Naso, the longest parasha in the Torah. Full of information, a lot of important things. Birkat Kohanim, the priestly blessings, Sotah, Nazir, the presence of all the presidents and Matnot HaNesiim. A whole long parasha. But today, we're going to focus on one very important detail. And a lot of people, they want to know how to get into Gan Eden. Imagine now you would have the secret information, how to get into heaven, to Gan Eden. Everybody wants to know that. So there is a tractate in the Talmud, specifically can be found in Tractate Shabbat, page 31. And it says as follows. I'm sure you heard it not once and not twice. Most people heard it, but they don't know the source, and they don't know the whole thing. But I'm sure you heard that when a person goes up to Shamayim, and they go to the Beit Din, to the court, the heavenly court, they're asking them questions. And the first question they ask the person, I'm sure you're familiar, is, have you did business honestly? Ooh, that's the first question they ask in Shamayim. If you did business honestly, haim asakta beyosher. This is, I'm sure many people heard this Gemara. I don't think many people know the actual source. If you want to look, I actually recommend to go Tractate Shabbat, page 31, read the whole thing. The next question that they ask the person, the soul that comes to Shamayim, is, did you set time to learn Torah? Not how much Torah you learned. Did you have a set time to learn Torah? Kavata itim la Torah. Even if it's once a week, one class, but it was set. And doesn't matter if it's the World Cup, the I don't know what, you don't miss the class. This is the second question. The third question they ask is, were you busy in the mitzvah of Pru of being fruitful and to be multiple? This is Pru. Haim asakta b'mitzvat priya v'reviya. That's question number 3. Question number 4. Haim tzipita le'yeshua. Have you waited for the redemption? Have you lived every day waiting for Mashiach to come? The fifth question is, Haim pilpalta b'chokhma. Have you asked questions? To come to the class and to go like this, no offense to the ones, but that's one thing. Have you asked questions? To come to the class is not a big deal. To nod, I told you already the Chihuahua syndrome. Everybody nods. To nod is very nice. But you have to ask questions. This is called lepalpel. But what about this? And how about that? And I'm not talking to disturb the class. That's not what I'm talking about. Talking about when I learned Torah, I had a notebook I used to write so many questions. Wow, who, what, when, what? This is called lepalpel b'chokhma. Don't just say yes. Ask questions. And the sixth question is, haim hevanta davar mitoch davar. Have you understood something that you learned and you applied it? To go again, the Chihuahua, this is not a big deal, just to nod. Did you learn something and you went out of the door? Say, that's it, I'm doing it. These are the 6 questions they ask. There's more questions, but these are the 6 first questions they ask the soul when they come to the heavenly court. I don't know if you paid attention. 3 questions are very general. The first one is if you did business honestly. This is the first question, but it's a general question. The second one is, have you done the mitzvah of Pru? And the third one is if you waited for Mashiach. These are 3 general questions. But 50% of the questions are about Torah. Have you set a time to learn Torah? Have you asked a lot of questions to really understand the bottom of it? And have you applied what you learned in the Torah? So from 100% of questions, 50% is about the Torah. The other 50% is general questions. So we see that the questionnaire they give you before you go into Gan Eden is about Torah. How much Torah did you learn in this world? So we learn from that something very simple, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu and the heavenly court cares how much Torah you know, how much Torah you learn, how much Torah you have with you. Not how much mitzvot, not how much good deeds you did, how much Torah you have. Now, I'm sure you heard many times that there isn't even a book with that question, The Secret of the Jewish Mind. I'm sure you heard many people ask, what's so special about the Jews? In ratio, we have the most Nobel Prizes, the best startups, the best everything. What's going on with this Jewish mind? That now in Korea, they're in their curriculum, they're learning Talmud. They said something's going on with this nation. And they're so smart. Let's learn what they learn. So what's the secret of the Jewish mind? Why are we so smart? What's and I'm not saying it in an arrogant way, but this is the fact. Something's going on. Even our enemies, they say that we're smart. Even our enemies call us the nation of the book, Am HaSefer. We're learning all the time. You look at a Jew is with the head into the book. Why is that? Because we always learn. Our head is always in a book. Since the beginning of time, let's go even back to Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu learned Torah. Yaakov, Yitzchak, we're all learning Torah all day long. When Yaakov sent Yehuda to Mitzrayim, what do you think he went there? To buy real estate? He went to establish yeshivot. This is when Yaakov went to Mitzrayim. So since the beginning of time, we're learning and learning and learning and learning and learning. Now the thing is that if you're looking at the Torah, everybody has to learn. This is not a choice. There's not age. From the moment you know how to say Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Morasha Kilat Yaakov, that's it, run, start learning. From the age of 2 or 3 till the last breath of your life, you're obligated in learning Torah. There's no time, from 20 to 30. So we're constantly learning and learning and learning. Now, why is Judaism or the Torah make such a big deal out of learning Torah? What's the big deal? Why don't you make a big deal of acts of kindness, charity, and love and respect? And what's the big deal, dafka with Torah? Dafka with learning Torah? Well, why is that the highlight of the highlight? Now, not only that it's connected to our parasha, it's also connected to the fact that very soon, in a few days, is Shavuot. In Shavuot, we're going to be learning Torah all night. So we're going to be focusing on the parasha, but you can take from that a very good message also for Shavuot. Now, what's going on in this parasha? Full of details. But the highlight in this parasha is that this parasha is taking the family of Kihat, and Kihat, if you remember, is the middle child of the Shevet of Levi. And technically, he's the least important child of all the 3, and the Torah is making him the greatest. If you remember, last week in Parashat Bamidbar, we were learning that the Mishkan was in the middle. On the east side was the tent of Moshe and Aaron, and then 3 sides were the camps of the Leviim. Bnei Merari, Bnei Kihat, and Bnei Gershon, according to each direction. And last week it's talking about taking the family of Gershon. He is the firstborn. But in this week's parasha, it's taking the family of Kihat and says, no, him you elevate, you make him the best of the best. Now, Gershon was the older brother. And I'm sure you know, and saw it many times, how the Torah is always giving power to the firstborn. The Bechor is the top of the top. Even in the inheritance, the Bechor gets double. How many times you see how important the Bechor means the firstborn. And here, we see that the Torah goes completely out of its nature, and it says, no, Gershon, he's okay. Gershon is okay. Kihat, wow, Kihat. Naso et rosh bnei Kihat, elevate him. Naso means to elevate. Dafka Kihat is the second one and seemingly not so important. How come the Torah is now taking Kihat and making him the important one in the family? Why? You know why? Because Kihat was the yeshiva bacher. He was the one who learned Torah. He was the one that sit and learned Torah. So the Torah elevated Kihat. He's now the best of the best. So we come again to this question. What's so special about learning Torah? When a father, an observant Jewish father, when he wants to show off, he will show off about the kid that knows the best in the Torah. He's number 1 in yeshiva. He's the best in his class. Why don't you say something? Father, the mother, they get a lot of nachat when the kid is talking Torah. So again, we find that the Torah is making a big deal out of the Torah. Why so special, the learning of the Torah? So the whole parasha of Naso is a continuation of Bamidbar. It's like as if one parasha. It's literally continuing. And it says, Naso et Rosh Bnei Gershon. You should elevate the head of the family of Gershon. Last week we learned about Kihat. But nevertheless, what was the job of Gershon? Is to carry the ark. Right? This is a pretty big job. To carry the ark. You know what it means to carry the ark? Now, if you remember, we spoke about it last week. There were 42 journeys. 42 times they had to take everything apart and then put it back again. And then go from one place to another, take it down, build it up, and everything would be done in hours. We spoke about it last week again. Now, 42 journeys, they had to carry the ark some way. Can you imagine how to carry it all? They didn't have cranes and forklifts and trucks, and nevertheless 42 journeys, and they have to carry the ark and the Mishkan and everything. Now the entire management of the house of God, because at the time of the desert, what was the house of God? The Mishkan. The Mishkan is temporary, Mikdash is permanent. But for 40 years in the desert, plus also the period when they went into Eretz Israel, they didn't have the Mikdash yet. Okay, later on they built the Mishkan in Shiloh. But nevertheless, in the desert, they moved it all the time. But who was in charge of all the work of the Mishkan? That was dependent on one tribe, and that was the tribe of Levi. This was the tribe that got assigned, you taking care, you are the VIP, you are the elite. What they call in Israel the Sayeret Matkal, or in America they will call them the Navy SEALs, the top, the commando. These are the special forces. You know what it means? They're taking care of the Ark and the Mishkan. Ooh, big VIPs. Okay. Now, what's so special about this tribe? Why didn't Judah get it? Why didn't anybody else get it? Why Dafka Levi? So let's go back a few hundred years. Let's see when Levi was born. If you remember, Yaakov goes down to Haran. I'm sure you remember the story. He marries Leah, then he marries Rachel, then with that he gets also Zilpah and Bilhah. And the first one who has kids is Leah, right? I don't know if you notice, but usually, if you have been to a Brit not too long ago, you notice that when the Mohel is doing the Brit, he turns to the father and he asks the father, V'yikare shmo b'Yisrael, what are you going to name him? Moshe ben David. And the father says that. They don't go to the mother and behind the partition, what are you going to call him? But here in this parasha, we see the mothers are naming all the kids. Where's Yaakov? Where's Yaakov? Why? What? He wasn't there in the Brit? So we do know that he was very dedicated to his job. He didn't want to miss any time of hours. He didn't want to do gezel, even for Lavan. So he was busy working. So we see that the mothers named the children. Now I don't know if you notice, Levi was the third one who was born. And it was Leah that it seemed that called him Levi. But I don't know if you notice, it wasn't her that named him. First of all, why did she name him Levi? Every time one of the tribes was born, then there was an explanation why. What was the explanation about Levi? Hapam yelaveh ishi elai. Now, my husband has to go with me. That was what Leah said. Why? Because she said, up until now, he has 4 wives. Now that I have 3 kids, now he has to be with me. I have the most kids right now. Now, there's an interesting commentary by the Sforno that says that when she had 2 kids, she didn't say that. Why? Because on the right hand she was holding one baby, the left hand she was holding another baby. Now when there's a third, okay, now I need you. I need you to come home and help me, change the diapers and bathe the kid. Now I have 3 kids, now Yaakov is guaranteed to be with me. I'm sure you remember there was a little bit of between Rachel and Leah. And Leah wanted more attention. She knew that Yaakov loves Rachel, but nevertheless, now she has 3 kids. Now, what does she says? Why did I call him Levi? Apam, this time, Yelaveh will escort me, my husband with me, he will come with me. So, basically saying in other words, that Leah's saying, now he has to be with me. Now, if you notice, there's something very different going on here, and most people don't even pay attention to that. Let's go back in time. Go to Parashat Vayetze. This can be found in the book of Bereshit, chapter 29, and it says as follows: Vatahar od yeled, and now she has another girl, another boy. This is referring to Leah, of course. Vatomer, and now she says, Hapam yelavei ishi elai. This time, now my husband has to come with me. And then it says, Ki yaledeti lo shalosh banim, I have gave birth to 3 boys. Al ken kara shmo Levi. Therefore, he called him Levi. Wait a minute. Stop. Don't continue reading. Leah says, right? She says, Vatar od, then Leah's talking, now he's going, and then it stops. Al ken kara shmo Levi. Therefore, he called him Levi. Who's he? You just said she. Who's the he here? You said Yaakov wasn't there. Yaakov was in the field working. Who called him he? Hashem. Hashem called him Levi, not Leah. In all the kids, it's the mothers who give the names. With Levi, Hashem says, Al ken kara shmo Levi. Why? Because it says Vatomer. Vatomer means she said. But after that, it says Al ken kara shmo. Who's the one? That's the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The Midrash says, the Kadosh Baruch Hu says his name is going to be Levi. Why? Hu yelaveh et Am Yisrael. He's going to be the leader of Am Yisrael. He's going to be the one who's escorting the entire nation. Whenever the nation will want to hear about the Torah, whenever the nation will want to be close to Hashem, who are they going to go to? Shevet Levi. These are going to be the ones who are going to be the connector between the nation and to the Torah and to Hashem. The Rambam says that Levi, the Shevet Levi, was always the great tribe of all the tribes in the nation of Israel. That was the commentary of the Rambam. And interestingly, if you remember, when Yaakov was about to die, he called everybody around the bed. And then he also told them exactly how to carry the coffin. You know that Levi didn't carry the coffin. Not only that, Yaakov told everybody, please come and touch the bed, besides Levi. Yaakov told the Shevet, the actual, his son Levi, don't touch the bed. Everybody else can touch the bed, but you don't touch the bed. So we see in many different places how the tribe of Levi was a little bit over everybody else. Another interesting point is at the time of Mitzrayim, even Paro didn't slave the Shevet of Levi. You know, the entire Shevet was off duty. How do you think Aaron and Moshe were able to go in and out and in and out? They were part of Shevet Levi. Even Paro says, no, this Shevet, leave them. Why? Because if Yosef respected them, he was afraid. Paro was afraid. He says, no, this Shevet, this tribe, don't touch them. So even Paro didn't touch them. Interestingly, now let's go further into the future. When they go into the land of Israel, everybody gets a piece of the land, and the entire Shevet Levi, they get nothing. You know what they had to do? Every family had to go to live in one city. They didn't get a place, they didn't get a nachala, a place in Eretz Israel. Why? Every family of the Shevet Levi had to go to a different city and live different city. You know why? So they can teach Torah in the city. They were the rabbis of the city. They were the one who come to teach. You go to this city, then there has to be a rabbi of the city. So that was Shevet Levi. So they didn't get any nachala. They didn't get any place in the land of Israel. So how did they live? How did the Levim and the Kohanim live? They got masrot and trumot. The nation said, okay, we will support you. So that's how they were the spiritual leaders. And the nation says, we'll pay the bill. It's almost like now you have a city, you have a Beit Din. How does the rabbi get money? Well, the people give donations to the Beit Din, and the rabbi has a maskoret, has a salary. Nevertheless, like I told you, Rambam said that not only that they were the best Shevet, Rambam calls them Cheil Hashem, the core of Hashem, the special unit of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because they teach Torah and they learn Torah and they teach it to the rest of the nation. Now, let's put all this information aside. Now let's focus on what's going on in this week's parasha. In this week's parasha, they're getting another job. Not only to learn and to teach Torah, to take care of the Mishkan. to take care of everything. From A to Z, they took of everything, all the jobs in the Mishkan, they had to take care of. Now, and this is their main focus. Learning Torah is one thing, but their main focus is to take care of the Mishkan. Now, if you split now the Kohanim that came out of Shevet Levi, well, the Kohanim, they had to operate the Mishkan. Slaughter the animals, check the animals, do all the korbanot. The Levim, the whole entire Shevet, the entire tribe, was to assist the Kohanim. But nevertheless, the Kohanim is from the same Shevet. But they were operating the Mishkan, guarding the Mishkan, serving the Mishkan, and so forth. And even, up until today, when you're looking at it, there's a certain importance to Shevet Levi. And we see it in many different places. Even though, according to Halacha, we don't give Masrot to Levim in our generation. Only because we don't know who the Levim are. And I can't give money to them. If not, because if they're not a Levi, I can't give money to them. So we don't give Masrot and Trumot to Levim. Although, if you have fruit and vegetables that you give Masrot from, you can give it to a Levi. It's actually better to give it to the Levi. But nevertheless, since it has to do with money, we're not allowed to give it directly to the Levi because we don't know who's a Levi. And I think I mentioned that a few times, that I have a friend who learned with me in yeshiva. And one time we're sitting in a Bet Knesset, and it's the time they pull the Torah out. And the Gabbai calls the Kohen up to the Torah. And then he says, Levi, 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 any Levi here? So I'm looking at my friend, I'm like, they need a Levi. Why aren't you going up? He's like, oh no, I'm not a Levi anymore. When do you mean not a Levi anymore? Would you quit? What do you mean you're not a Levi anymore? So he says, no. A few months ago, when I got married, the rabbi wanted to see the Ketubah, proof of Judaism. We went 3 generations back and we found out we're not even Leviim. So the whole time I thought I'm a Levi and I'm not really a Levi. Now that when we investigated a little bit, we found out. So there are many families that they think they're Leviim and they're not Leviim. Many families think they're Kohanim and they're not Kohanim. And sometimes it's the other way around. Some people don't even know. I told you already, there's a certain individual he wanted to find out his lineage, his roots. He made a whole research. Some guy from Texas. Not only that he tracked his lineage and he found out that he's Jewish, he found another 10 families that are Jewish because he went into files of the Nazis, Ymach Shimam. He's the one, by the way, who found all the documents. I don't know if you're aware, but the previous Lubavitch Rabbi, Rav Yosef Yitzchak, was smuggled out of Europe. And they bribed some high-ranking SS officer. And this individual from Texas found all the documents, who they bribed, how they got him out, the route, how they got him out, and he was able to be smuggled out of Europe. He came to Eretz Israel and then went to America. That's the previous Chabad Rebbe. Nevertheless, this individual found his lineage, and he found another 10 families, and he came and told them, listen, I found documents, you're all Jewish. And one of the families, he found out, and this is a very big, respectful family, he found out that they're Kohanim. They didn't even know. And he found all the lineage and they were able to trace it. And suddenly, suddenly I'm a Kohen. So Mashiach is going to come very soon. He's going to start pointing out. We're going to have some surprises. But nevertheless, now we don't give Masrot to the Levim because we don't really know who the Levi, and it has to do with money. If you want to give fruit, fine. But money you're not allowed to give to the Levi. But nevertheless, we still see in our generation that the Levim, they have a little bit of what's called chashivut, an importance. First of all, we call them up to the Torah. They always will go up to the Torah. If there's no Kohen in the room, even though you're allowed to skip to the Israel, but you still, if there's a Levi, you give him the respect. More than that, if there's a Kohen in the house who's about to give a priestly blessing, the Levi will wash the Kohen's hands. I don't know if you ever saw it in a synagogue. More than that, a Levi doesn't do pidyon haben, doesn't do the giving of the firstborn, and many other things. Anyways, to make a long story short, Shevet Levi is a very unique Shevet. Shevet is a tribe. This is what Rambam says, Chel Hashem, the elite of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And we want to now focus for a few moments about the work, what they did in the Mishkan. First of all, just the honor, thinking that the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, I want you to deal with my Mishkan. That's already showing us one big thing. But nevertheless, in this week's parasha, not in this parasha we learn about it, but we learn how Shevet Levi suddenly get the news that they're going to be selected to take care of the Mishkan. Ooh, that didn't come in the work offer. They didn't know. Suddenly, Moshe Rabbeinu says, listen, you are appointed, you're going to take care of the Mishkan. Okay. Now Moshe Rabbeinu calls the kids of Bnei Levi. If you remember, there's Shevet Levi, and he has 3 kids, Gershon, Kihat, Merari, and they have kids. Moshe Rabbeinu calls all the kids, and the sons of Gershon, the sons of Kehat, and the sons of Merari. And he tells them, listen, I have a surprise for you. You're going to be taking care of the Mishkan. Ooh, wow, what a kavod, what an honor. Okay. Now, who is usually the most important boy? The firstborn, the Bechor. Even if you remember, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu and told him, go to Mitzrayim and get the nation out, what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not the Bechor. I have an older brother. Go to him. No. Hashem says, no, I chose you. But right away, Moshe Rabbeinu says, wait a minute, I can't go first. I have an older brother. So, you would think that the older one, the Bechor, he will be important. Moshe calls Kihat. He says, you come, Kihat. You are the one I want to talk to. You are going to be the one who's taking care of the Mishkan, specifically of the Ark, of the Aron Kodesh, the Menorah, the big Menorah, and all the Mizbachot, all the altars. That's what Kihat gets. Now, you would think that Gershon, who's the older, he will get that. That seems to be the best of the best. Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu says, no, Kihat. That's Kihat's job. You carry the Ark, the Menorah, the lamp, and the Mizbachot, all the altars. Gershon, he's the one who's carrying what's called the Yeriot. Yeriot is all the curtains. The curtains were not like cheap curtains you buy in IKEA, by the way. These were serious curtains from linen, wool, and colors and dye, and wool was professional weavers. Just imagine how these curtains looked. This was not some cheap fabric you buy from a home center. This is something special. Anyways, Gershon was the family who would carry the curtains, the Yeriot, and Merari was the one who carried the krashim and the amudim, the boards, the planks, and the pillars. That was the job of Merari. Okay. The Torah says, Naso et rosh bnei Kihat, elevate the head of the sons of Kihat, because they're above everybody. Now again, like I said before, the Torah, wait a minute, why is the Torah now giving the Kihat, is the number 2? Why is it not giving it to Gershon? Doesn't make so much sense. Nevertheless, this is the only place that we find in this week's parasha, in Parashat Naso, that the Torah is pushing away the Bechor. Anywhere you're going to look in the Torah is always going to give importance to the firstborn. This is the first and only time that you will find in the entire Torah that the Torah pushes the Bechor, in our case it's Gershon, and says, no, Kihat, let him be. Number 2, he's number 2 in line, because it was Gershon, Kihat, and then Merari. Why is the Torah doing that? Now, anything that happens in the Torah, there's a reason for that. Now you have to ask yourself, why is the Torah doing that, specifically in this case? So there's a beautiful idea taught in the Midrash, why the Torah did that to Bnei Kihat. It's quoting a verse from the book of Mishlei, Proverbs, specifically in chapter 3, verse 15, and it says there, Yekara hi mipninim. It's more valuable than pearls. That's what it says in Mishlei. And the commentary in the Midrash says this little verse in Mishlei is talking about the sons of Kihat. That's what it's talking about. Why? They carried the ark. You know what it means to carry the ark? You know that now, any person, we don't know exactly where the ark is. There's an argument. Some people say it's in the Vatican, that Titus took it, but the more reliable opinion says they weren't able to move it. It's buried underneath where Har HaBayit is. Even if they would find it, they wouldn't be able to move it. So yes, here no question that Titus took a lot of stuff from Beit HaMikdash, and it's probably in some basement in the Vatican. The menorah and many other things. The ark, nobody can move it. Even if you bring a crane, you're not going to be able to move the ark. And the ark was this big, by the way, but very small. You had to have special powers in order to lift it up. How did they were able to lift it up? Nobody can move the ark. Very soon you're going to see the ark. Just imagine, very soon Mashiach is going to come. We're going to get everything back. Just imagine seeing the ark, seeing Luchot HaBrit. Can you imagine seeing such a thing? I don't know. It's hard to imagine. Nevertheless, the Midrash says that when Shlomo HaMelech says Yekara mipninim, is referring to the sons of Kihat. They were carrying the ark. So, yes, the Bechor, this is what the Midrash says, the Bechor is the most important one, unless there's a Talmid Chacham in the family. The Talmid Chacham, the sage, the scholar, is going to push everybody else away. So, even if the scholar, the Talmid Chacham, is number 2, number 3, number 7 in line, he will push the Bechor. That's what the Midrash says. That's why Kihat was able to push Gershon away. Why? He was a Talmid Chacham. His son learned Torah. Now the Midrash adds on that, and it says, even mamzer. A mamzer, how do you say that in English? In English it doesn't sound so good. I know, I don't want to say that word. It doesn't sound so good, mamzer in English. But a mamzer is a person who came out of a relationship of a man or a woman who are married to other people. That's a mamzer. That's a big problem. You can't even marry a mamzer, 10 generations. Nevertheless, this is a big problem in our generation even. Now, how do you know who's a mamzer? I told you already a couple times, and I know a few people get offended, but many people actually act upon it. And I told you, I don't know how it is in Europe or other places. I know in North America, most of the Jewish couples are not really married. And the reason why they're not really married, because all it takes is one of the witnesses in the chuppah to be a false witness, a disqualified witness, and the wedding is not a real wedding. And most of the chuppot, that's how it is. Unless you're getting married by an Orthodox rabbi who's very particular, then if it's Reform or conservative or civil or whatever, they don't care about the witnesses. If one of the witnesses is pasul le'edut, is disqualified, there's no wedding. What's the result from that? That most of the couples in North America are not even married. And many people who come and tell me we have problems in our marriage, Shlom Bayit, the first thing I ask them is, are you married? Of course. Look, I have a $40,000 ring. Well, the $40,000 is a nice ring, but did you get married? Of course we got married. So-and-so married us. Yeah, but Mary, you're not married. Look at the Ketubah. Look who the witnesses were. If the witness is not a kosher witness, you're not married. And needless to say, what problems it's going to cause between the husband and wife when they're not physically married. They maybe live with each other, and they spend $250,000 on a wedding, but they're not really married. And I have a whole wedding album of couples that got remarried. Because I told them, look, let's look at the Ketubah. No, you're not married. Go and marry again. You don't have to make a wedding. Just go to the Beit Din, write a new Ketubah, bring 2 kosher witnesses, and that's it. And how do you say, renew your vows? You don't have to go to Vegas for that. Go to the Beit Din. But the fact is that the majority of couples in North America are not really married. And of course, it's going to cause a lot of problems. Where did I see that the first time, and it's connected to what I want to say? Why am I saying that? About 15 years ago, give or take, one of my wife's best friends got married. Okay, she invites us to the wedding. And then my wife comes and tells me, we were like very freshly observant. So my wife comes and asks me, am I allowed to say bracha from the 7 brachot under the chuppah? I'm like, what? She was like, well, my friend invited me to say one of the brachot under the chuppah. You can't say a bracha under the chuppah. I thought, what kind of a wedding is that? And she was like, well, it's, there's a woman rabbi. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, so long story short, I told my wife, listen, why don't you talk to them and tell them, listen, this is not the way to do it. You're getting married. You don't have to be, not telling you to be observant, but do the wedding the right way. Anyways, we're going backwards and forth. At some point I came to my rabbi and I told him, what do you think I should do? This is the situation. He told me, mind your own business. Don't interfere here. He says, that's what you're telling me? I would expect you to tell me, yeah, go there, turn the tables upside down, go and tell them. And you're telling me not to say anything? I'm shocked. He says, listen, no doubt that if they go ahead with this wedding, besides spending a lot of money on a fancy wedding, they're not married. They're going to go home that night, they're going to have marital relations, and they're not even married. And needless to say, they're going to have kids, they're going to live their life happily ever after. They're not married. That's it, end of story. Every time they're together, having marital relationships, that's a sin, a big sin. So how are you telling me not to get interfered? How not to maybe influence them or convince them? He tells me, listen, if they're not particular about how they're getting married, if chas v'shalom, they get divorced, they're not going to be particular how they get divorced. So now you're going to help them get married the right way. What happens if they get divorced in 10 years and you're not in the picture? So you think they're going to care about a get? They're not going to care about a get. They're just going to split. Now what happens is they're really married and they don't even have a get. They got divorced with a lawyer, not with a get. Now each and every one of them goes and marries off a new person, has children with them. These children are mamzerim because they're still married to each other. So if they're not particular of how they're getting married, they're not going to be particular how they're getting divorced. Let them not be married, and if they get divorced, then it's not really a divorce because they weren't really in marriage. You know how many women we're trying to help them get out of an abusive marriage? And the loophole is, let's see the ketubah. Maybe you're not even married to the person. There's one woman now, we're trying to help her. The husband is extremely abusive and she needs a way out. And their way out is, let's find out if you had an unkosher wedding, you're not married to him. Take the girls and get away. You don't need a get. So the problem is that this is going to cause a mamzer. Mamzer, this is a serious thing in Am Yisrael. We're not allowed to even have such a thing. The same midrash that says that Shevet Levi, that the sons of Kihat were elevated. Why? Because he was a Talmid Chacham and he pushes away the Bechor. The same midrash says that a mamzer who's a Talmid Chacham is more important to a Kohen that is Am Haaretz. Imagine a Kohen. Here you have a mamzer, but a Talmid Chacham, he's more powerful than the Kohen that is Am Haaretz. I mean, the least of the Kohanim. Why? Because he's a Talmid Chacham. He still has Torah. And in this week's parasha, we see how the Torah is giving power to a person who has Torah, but in a very dominating way. Now comes a big question. What is this? A person can be a mamzer, but a Talmid Chacham, and you're giving him all the honor, the respect. The person has Torah, and that's it, he's number one? Yeah, that's what the Torah says. So why is this such a big deal about learning Torah? Why is the Torah, or Hashem, or Judaism, is making such a big deal from learning Torah? Isn't it more important, like the first question they asked the soul, Lasok beyosher? Isn't it better to be a mensch, to be honest in business? Why making such a big deal of the Torah? Let's go to the three questions that, being honest in business, expecting Mashiach, doing purvu, that's pretty important. Why are you making a big deal of the Torah? So the Gemara, the Talmud says a story, a very interesting story. If you remember, I gave some classes about the history of the Talmud, how it started in Babylon. If you remember, we learned about one of the yeshivot that was in Bavel, Pompidita. If you were here in the class, maybe you remember that. Okay, there was a yeshiva in Pompidita. This was in Bavel. Bavel is Iraq. And there was one rabbi there, he was known as Rav Yosef, if you ever heard of him. He was known as the walking Mount Sinai. He was one of the top Tanaim that ever existed. Literally knew the Torah inside out. Everybody went to him. He was the source of question. They called him Har Sinai Mehalech, a walking Mount Sinai. He was greater than everybody. At the time, the great sage was Rabbi. He was 10 times greater than him. Everybody would go to Rav Yosef for questions. Okay. Chag Shavuot, the holiday of Shavuot, was his favorite, and he would go completely out of his kelim when Shavuot would come. The Talmud says that one time before Shavuot, he got so excited, he instructed his students to make for him a dish of food, of veal, but not just a regular veal, a veal that from a calf that is number 3 in line. Not number 1, not number 2, third calf that comes out. A whole explanation how the womb is already adjusted after 2 calves, whatever. This was like the delicacy of having what's called egla meshuleshet, a calf, a veal that was number 3 in line. And they tell him, that's what's on your mind on Chag Matan Torah, on Shavuot? That's what's on your mind? Veal? Our great Rabbi? And he tells them, this holiday is what made me. I am me because of this night. Not me, I'm talking about Rabbi Yosef. He says, without this night of Shavuot, I would be like any other Yosef in the market. I would be like Kol Yosef Bashuk. But this night made me special. That's what the Talmud says. How do we explain the Talmud? We go to Rashi. What does Rashi say? Rashi says, Shelamadati Torah v'nitromamti. I have learned Torah, and you know what it did to me? It elevated me. That's what Rashi says about Rabbi Yosef. That he learned Torah, and the Torah elevated him. That's the Torah. The Torah is a source of elevation. Nothing else would elevate you. Only the Torah. So what's so special about learning Torah? The Baal Tanya explains in the book of Tanya that when you learn Torah, it penetrates in you. It's not like anything else. Torah is what's called in the Kabbalistic term, pnimiyut. It becomes part of me. Mitzvot is chitzoni, it's external. I can put tefillin on, it's outside. It doesn't penetrate into my body. The Baal Tanya explains it beautifully. It says the Torah penetrates inside of me, becomes part of me. And the only thing that is able to become part of me is the Torah. And that what it does, what would be the result? It will elevate me. The learning of the Torah changes me. Doesn't matter how many times I'm going to put tefillin on, it's not going to change me. I'm doing a mitzvah, no doubt. But it doesn't change me. I can put tefillin on 50 years. I can say Birkat Hamazon 50 years. Observe Shabbat, all the halachot. It's amazing. But it's chitzoni, it's external, it doesn't affect me. Torah, when it affects me, makes me a different person. How many times you came into a shiur Torah, to a class, and it changed you? You were able to apply something in your life because you learned something. Torah elevated you. You're a better person. You're not so angry. You're not so judgmental. You think different. You operate different. A mitzvah is great. It's not going to do that. Give tzedakah like this all day long. It's not going to change you. Torah is able to elevate you. And when it elevates you, not only elevates you spiritually and in your place in the world, it changes you completely. When you learn a lot of Torah, you're a different person. Why? The Torah is wisdom that becomes part of you. The Midrash says, a story about that there was once a sage who lived in Eretz Israel, but nevertheless, he wanted to go and learn a little bit of Torah. He decided to go to Bavel. At the time, there was a center of Torah in Israel, and there's a center of the Torah in Babylon. Okay, this sage wanted to go to Bavel. Okay, you live in Eretz Israel, you're going to learn in Bavel? Yeah, that's what he wanted. Okay. He learned there for a couple months, and then on the way back, he comes back, and on the way back, he goes on a ship. And everybody on the ship were merchants, because everybody used to go out of the country. This person will deal with leather, this one with textile, this one with gold, whatever it is. Everybody was merchants. He sits on the boat, and everybody's asking each other, what do you do? What are you importing? What are you bringing? This person says, I bring food, I bring gold, whatever. Everybody asked him, what are you a merchant for? He says, I bring Torah. Torah? What do you mean Torah? He says, that's what I bring. I went to Bavel, I brought Torah with me. Nonsense. We go out, we do business, we bring merchandise. Okay. They all were laughing at him. Why? Because they all came with fortunes. You know, when I was younger, then now it's not like that, but when I was a teenager, everybody knew you want to make money, you go to America. People will go to America, make money, come back. And you know, it worked. I went to America after the army, I made money. I didn't come back yet, but nevertheless, It was very easy to make money in America. You come back with a lot of money. So same thing here. They went out to Bavel, come back with a lot of money. So everybody was laughing at him. They didn't come back with money. He came back with Torah. Okay. 3 weeks into the journey, starts a storm in the ocean. And they're on a boat, on a ship. What do you do when you're in a storm? Start throwing all the heavy things. Okay, let's start throwing all the metals. And then start throwing all the crates and all the boxes. And before you know it, they throw everything into the water. They have to save themselves. And to get to a point that they even throw the food in. And what happens is, now they have nothing. No gold, no diamonds, no food, no nothing. And they're all sitting on the boat starving. Okay. They find a deserted island, they stop in the deserted island, they all get off to the island, they want to go and eat. Everybody goes to look for food. The sage, the Jew that went to Babylon to learn Torah, he goes off the boat. Where does the Jew go? Goes to synagogue to pray mincha. Okay. He goes into the synagogue and he comes in looking beautiful, beard, dressed all learned. Okay, the rabbi tells him, oh, you look like a Talmid Chacham, maybe you teach us some Torah. No problem. Between Mincha and Arvit, he starts giving them a class. Oh, floors them. Where did you come from? And they're all so excited. Who are you? Where did you come from? It's unbelievable. They start giving him presents. He tells them, listen, I'm on a ship here. We lost all the food. They come out, they give food to everybody. They feed everybody from the boat. And everybody's satisfied and happy. Okay. Then they come to all the merchants, they come to this Jew and they tell him, what's going on with you? We just lost all our fortune and you were able to chick-chack get everything back. So he answers them, your merchandise is outside. It can be gold, can be stones, can be precious stones, can be whatever. My merchandise is inside. I carry it everywhere I go with me. Storm, no storm, throwing things in the water. My schora, they say in Yiddish action, my schoire, my merchandise is inside. It doesn't get lost. I carry it with me everywhere I go, like my iPhone. That's the idea of learning Torah. That the Torah not only elevates me above the ground, it's with me. It doesn't go anywhere. You take your Torah with you to the world to come. You don't take anything. You take mitzvot, yeah, but the Torah, that's what's carrying you. But in this world, it's the Torah. There's a famous argument in the Talmud with a famous story with Rabbi Tarfon. I'm sure you remember that because we read that very short, not too long ago in Pesach. There was a big argument. What is greater? Talmud Gadol or Maaseh Gadol? What is greater? The Talmud, the learning, or the action? And the conclusion was the Talmud, the learning. You know why? Because the learning will make you do. Just doing is nice, but if you learn, it actually makes you do. And there's a story, we're going to finish in a minute. There's a story in the Talmud, very important story. I highly recommend to go and read it. It can be found in Tractate Chagiga, all the way at the end of the tractate. And there was a story about a Talmid Chacham, a sage that sinned. I'm sure you heard the story about Acher, Elisha ben Abuya. Okay, was a great scholar, sinned towards the end of his life, switched. And there's a question there, what happens with a person like that? What happens with a person who was a great scholar and then he sins? Does he go to Gehenom? Then he's going to be burnt in Gehenom? Okay. Same place, it's asking another question. What about an Am Haaretz? A person who did mitzvot, but doesn't know much. He did the mitzvot because they told him, do this, do this, do this. Now that person sins towards the end of his life, goes off the derech. Does he go to Gehenom? What did you happen with these two? The Talmud says both these people will not go into Gehenom. The sage that has a lot of Torah that flipped and went against the Torah, and also the Am Haaretz. The person, Am Haaretz means the person that follows the Torah. He does all the mitzvot, but he doesn't have any wisdom, doesn't learn anything. The Talmud in Masechet Chagiga says both of them don't go into Gehenom. Why? The Talmid Chacham doesn't go into Gehenom because his entire body is fire. You learn Torah, your whole body is fire. So what's the whole point of Gehenom? Gehenom is not a punishment. I mean, it is. I don't recommend to go there. Unless you're going on points from your credit card, and I don't recommend to go to Gehenom. But really, what is Gehenom? The Gehenom is a furnace. You know how, if you have now a fork that it's what's called a basari, a fleshik, and you mix it with the meat, with the dairy. Now it becomes taref. How do you fix it? You put it in boiling hot water or in fire. That's it. This is how you take the taste out. This is Gehenom. Gehenom is fire to take the taste of the sin out of the neshama. So why would the Talmid Chacham not go to Gehenom? His whole body is fire. You can clean fire with fire? That doesn't work. So he can't go into Gehenom. This is the Talmid Chacham. That's why if you remember the story, Acher could not go into Gehenom. He wasn't in Gehenom and he wasn't in Gan Eden. His soul was kind of like bouncing in between. If you remember, his student Rabbi Meir says, when I die, I will go up to Shamayim and I will make an effort that he will go into Gehenom. He will get cleansed and punished, and at least he can go out and go into Gan Eden. But nevertheless, the Talmid Chacham cannot go into Gehenom because his entire body is fire. And fire cannot turn off fire. Fire cannot clean fire. The Am Haaretz cannot go into Gehenom because you know what the Talmud says? Even Rashaim Israel, even the wicked one in Israel, meleim ki b'mitzvot kerimon. They're full of mitzvot like a pomegranate. Even the Rashaim, the wicked ones. So why can he go into Gehenom? Because he has a lot of mitzvot. He can't go into Gehenom. So the difference is his body is full of mitzvot, he is full of mitzvot, but his body is not full of mitzvot. That's the difference. The difference is the seeds and the pomegranate, you can separate the seeds from the pomegranate. The saying is that the Rashaim b'Yisrael meleim b'mitzvot kerimon. But nevertheless, the mitzvah is something external, and the Torah is something internal. And it doesn't matter how many mitzvot you do, it doesn't affect you the same way how the Torah affects you. And the limud Torah, the learning of the Torah, elevates the person. It elevates us to a place that it transforms me. And that's really the virtue. This is the advantage of the Torah. I'll tell you just one quick story before we end. Probably about 200 years ago, there was the Rabbi from Belz. And he was a great tzaddik. And he was blind. And he had a yeshiva, and he would sit there, and people would want to meet him and shake his hand. And he would, blind, and he would shake a person's hand. And usually he would just say a blessing or something. Every now and then, he would ask the Gabbai, who's this person? And the person said, it's so-and-so. Okay. One time, the son of the Tzemach Tzedek is the grandson of the Balatanya. His son, he had 7 boys. The last of all, later on became the next rabbi. He once went there and he was dressed like a merchant, not like a big rabbi. So he goes to the Rebbe from Belz, and the Rebbe from Belz shakes his hands, and then he tells the Gabbai, who's this guy? So he tells him, a soicher, a merchant. So he says, this is not stam a merchant. And he quotes the famous song from Eshet Chayil that it's talking about the merchant going to the ocean to bring back the whatever, the produce or whatever. So the Rebbe from Bell says this is not a regular, this is Socher b'Torah, this is a great scholar in the Torah. When they ask him, how do you know? He says, I touch the body. The body's fire. The body's full of fire. It's not a regular body. But nevertheless, when we want to conclude that, why the Torah gives so much to the point of learning Torah is because you can be a good person. You can be an amazing person, charitable and kind, and do a lot of mitzvot and a lot of acts of kindness. It's all great. It's all amazing. But it doesn't change you. The Torah, when you learn the Torah becomes part of you. Not only that it elevates you spiritually, it totally changes you. A person that learns Torah, doesn't matter who, what, and what, he will change. he will become more refined, more elevated, more soft, more wise, and so forth. That's why the Torah and Judaism gives so much power to the ones who learn Torah. That's why this is how we started the class. One of the keys to go into Gan Eden is learn Torah. And it's not the quantity, it's the quality. That's why the first question is, did you set time to learn? I'm not telling you to learn 20 hours a day, even if it's an hour a day. But that hour doesn't matter what happened, it doesn't change. Who doesn't matter what comes in your way. This hour, I'm not moving. This is the importance of learning Torah. It's called Kviyat Itim La Torah, even if it's 20 minutes a week. So the Torah comes and tells you the most powerful, the highest way, what the Kadosh Baruch Hu sees, or what will change you or elevate you, is sitting and learning the Torah. Like the Rabbi Tarfon says, that the Torah will bring you to do the action. So we want to conclude from that, especially a few days before Shavuot, is that the night of Shavuot, we learn Torah all night. And the whole day of Shavuot was dedicated to learn Torah. Now is not the time, maybe another time we'll discuss it, if you notice that during Shavuot there's no Chol HaMoed. There's Chol HaMoed in Pesach and there's Chol HaMoed in Sukkot. How come we don't have a Chol HaMoed in Sukkot, in Shavuot? You know what Chol HaMoed is really done for? To learn Torah. Chol HaMoed is a rabbinical, it's not the Oraita, it's the Rabbanan. Why? The whole week, the whole year you're busy, Chol HaMoed didn't learn. So wouldn't you make a Chol HaMoed on Shavuot? Well, that another time we'll talk about why Shavuot doesn't have a Chol HaMoed. But now we're a few days before Shavuot. Here we celebrate one day. Out of Israel we celebrate 2 days. This is the 24 hours to 48 hours that you sit and learn Torah. That you dedicate yourself to the Torah. It's the time when you can receive the Torah in such an internal way that what you want to apply from that is, how am I setting myself a schedule throughout my busy day that I learn Torah? Once a day, twice a day, once a week, 2 hours a day. The Torah is the highest of all. Mipninim yekara. It's valuable more than pearls. So we here see the Torah. The Torah is pushing the Bechor in this week's parasha. It usually doesn't do that. It's pushing the firstborn. Why? Kihat, he learns Torah. In our generation, you also see that. I told you that in the previous class. That when a person is a Talmid Chacham and he has Torah, this is like you go against a Talmid Chacham. That's like, how do you say, touching the soft part of the eye? That's in Hebrew they say it. Mabat Aino shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's don't touch that. Excuse me? The apple of the eye. The Talmidei Chachamim, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, don't touch them. That's what we said. I told you before the class about the Hod Sheba Malchut, the connection. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is very sensitive with the Talmidei Chachamim. A person who has Torah with him, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, don't go against that person. Don't stample the Torah. Don't go against the Torah. So what we want to learn from that is how lucky we are that we are the one who are receiving the Torah. We're celebrating in a few days Chag Matan Toratenu, the holiday that we receive the Torah. And we have to understand that we are lucky to receive the Torah. Now take this great merit and you see in your life, how am I applying the right time to learn Torah? And every minute counts, every hour counts, and every moment that you learn Torah, or every free moment that you have, for a man, every free moment that he has, and he doesn't learn Torah, this is one of the worst sins that a person can do. It's called Bitul Torah. If you're busy, you have to support your family, and you have to work 12 hours a day, good, work. But you have a free moment, don't go like this on Facebook. This is Bitul Torah. For every one like that, what a person will have to pay for Bitul Torah. Women are a little bit more exempt with when it comes to Torah. But nevertheless, every free moment that you have, then you want to learn Torah. And exactly like the story I told you before we started the class, with the lecture, I came out of the lecture, I had an hour to drive, I had an option of learning Torah or listening to music. And the question was, what do I do? I told you, I went out of the lecture, 7-hour lecture, my mind was about to already explode. I go into the car, just to relax a little bit. I open the windows, put some music on, and I'm driving. I need, it's something to relax. And after a couple of moments that I'm driving, I'm like, what am I doing? The GPS says I have a whole hour now till I get home. What do? I have an option on one side to listen to music and relax, or the other option is to switch the CD and put a CD of a Shiur Torah. Now let's weigh the results. If I listen for a whole hour for music, what would be the result? A neck ache. Right? And what would be the result of a whole hour of Torah? Netzach Netzachim, eternal reward for 1 hour of listening Torah. So we got to value what we have in our hand. Don't waste your time on nonsense. Not only that you want to apply that into your own life, but also you want to be attached to a Baal Torah. We spoke about the Pirkei Avot. People learn it in the summer. It tells you also, מתעבק באבק רגליהם של תלמידי חכמים. Throw yourself to the dust of the legs. They do dust to the dust of the Talmidei Chachamim. You can't go wrong there. Attach yourself constantly to a person who learns Torah. You'll never go wrong there. A person who has bitul Torah always cares about other things. I don't want to be part of this. So we want to first of all understand the merit we have that we have access to the Torah, and then go and apply that. And with that, we have a key for eternal life, for a happy life in this world. And not only that, I don't looking necessarily the eternal life or how lucky I am. I'm looking how much it's changing me. And at the end of the day, now, especially now, at the time of Sfirat Omer, it's about change. How am I refining myself? How do you refine yourself? At the end of the day, go to all the courses, do all the tricks. The only way to refine yourself is in the Torah. Still learn Torah, that will refine you. Because when you put your heart in the Torah, this is not easy to learn Torah. Now it's easy because I'm feeding you. Open the book, start learning the argument now between two Tanaim. He said this, he said that, and going to the depths of everything. That's not easy. I told you already once that a person on Rosh Hashanah, everything is decreed. How much money you're going to make, who's going to live, who's going to die, who's going to get married, who's going to have kids. Everything is decided on Rosh Hashanah. You know what else is decided on Rosh Hashanah? How much Yisurim you're going to have that year. How much hardship you're going to have to go through. 10 kilos of hardship, 20 kilos, 100 kilos. It's all they already decided how much hardship you're going to have to go through. Now, you have a way to redeem it. If you toil in the Torah, then you're removing from the baggage of the Yisurim. Everybody has to go through Yisurim, because that's part of the system. But if you put yourself, it's not easy to learn 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day, put your head in the book and to understand, not just to read. Then you take off from the baggage of the hardship that you have to go throughout the year. So I look at the Torah as my tool of my refinement. I look at myself with a very judging eye, and I see my faults, and I know I need to get rid of this, I need to get rid of that, I don't like this attribute in me. I'm talking about myself, not about other people. The only way to refine yourself is only the Torah. So you want to take all these beautiful aspects of the Torah and apply that, and we have to understand how lucky we have that we have the Torah to learn. And Bezrat Hashem, in a few days we celebrate the holiday of receiving the Torah. So we should all be blessed with not only receiving the Torah in an external way, but rather that should receive it in an internal way that should affect us, that not only we should grow up in the Torah, that we should refine ourselves and become a much more elevated, refined individual. Bezrat Hashem, we should merit to receive the ultimate Torah with the coming of Mashiach. And as it says, "V'Torah chadasha me'iti titzeh," we're going to get an addition part of the Torah. Bezrat Hashem, we should merit to see it and to be part of it very soon. Bezrat Hashem, with the coming of Mashiach. Have a beautiful rest of the week and a Chag Sameach if I don't see you.